Fabricland just had the third big sale this year, and I went and I bought fabric without guilt. So let me tell you 10 of the ways that I save money sewing. Hi, it's Myrna and Callie. Thanks for joining us in the studio today. They're not in any order, but here are 10 of the ways. One of the tips is about storage. Not only have I moved a lot, I want to keep everything related to sewing in the sewing studio. I never have allowed myself to ooze out to other rooms in the house. I designate space. This much space for fabric, this much space for books, for patterns, for thread, and that has kept my stash under control. The other thing I do is I review my stash frequently. Before I go to a sale, so I won't have a problem with shiny objects, I go through my stash and look at what do I actually need more of. For instance, right now, I am keeping an eye out for denim. I'm looking for a darker denim with some kind of motif on it, like paisleys would be lovely, or stripe. I know that I need some yardage of denim. I'm not buying it just because. I'm waiting for it to come on sale. Sale and out of season is one of the other ways that I do it. I buy virtually all of my fabric on sale. This is cotton, this is cotton, and this is cotton. I bought 20 meters of fabric this weekend for $250, which in Canada is a buy. These cottons were 70% off, plus an additional $2 a meter, plus 14% off of your entire order. I chose 2 bottoms for either sundresses or pants, and one for a top. I knew that those would work with the rest of my stash because I know what's in my stash. The other thing I do is I buy out of season. So these were 70% off and the 14%. This one was in the bargain center. It was $6 a meter, less $1, less the 14%, and this is a sweater knit. These are bottom weights. On sale also goes for thread and elastic and interfacing and that kind of thing. I stock up when notions are on sale. If I pay full price for something, it's because it's for an immediate need. The last time was maybe 3 years ago in May when I bought the fabric for my mother of the groom dress. I was looking for a specific fabric and I found it and it wasn't on sale and it was for an event that I was willing to pay full price for. Normally, I don't have too many of those in my life. I can wait and I can stash up in advance. So I buy for my stash and I sew from my stash. A really important thing I started in my early 20s is that I sew one at a time. One project, start to finish, before I go on to the next one. How that saves me money is that I do not have scattered all around my sewing studio projects that are half done and I cannot wear. I started that as a New Year's resolution the year that I had a lot of projects cut out in sizes, styles, and fabrics that weren't working for me because I had jumped too far ahead of myself. I switched to doing things one at a time, and I do that with my knitting and my basketry as well. I find that lets me focus on the project I'm on, really enjoy it, and take away the learning from it. That learning gives you another way to save money. You accumulate knowledge about what does and doesn't work, whether it's a style or a fabric or a color or a type of print. And so you are spending less money on things that are not going to work and more money on the stuff that does work. That doesn't mean it will be perfect. You will have things that come up. Recently, I bought a t-shirt knit because I have been wanting to switch to natural fibers, and I was more focused on the natural fibers than the amount of stretch, and I ended up with t-shirt fabric that is just way too stretchy for what I want to do. And not only did I buy it in the gray that you saw in the t-shirt video, I bought it in this black as well. I no longer want to make a t-shirt out of that, but I do not want to waste this fabric. Down the line, if I can't figure it out, I will donate it. But one of the things that I just learned you could do is sew socks. I also like to take what didn't work and try to reuse it in a way that will, to use scraps and to refashion. The t-shirts have become pajama tops, but the remnants could become socks. And if those socks work out really well, then I have a whole lot of black colored socks in my life. Using the scraps, it is not costing me any money. I really enjoy working with scraps, which is another way to extend your money. I should say right up front, and I didn't, I have a budget. I have an amount of money that I am allowed to spend on fabric, and I don't spend it every payday or every month. I spend it when I can maximize it. This is a denim jacket that is made all out of scraps. They're leftover bits of painted fabric and the remnants around a pair of jeans. This is a splotch that was a mistake and I had to cover up. These are the little bits that come off of the serger, and I macrameed them to make the collar, and the embellishments are zippers. This took a lot of time to make. Projects that take time are another way to maximize your money. I have more time now than I did when I was younger, and I don't want to fill it up with just whipping out one thing after another, because I actually like having a small wardrobe. Tip 7 is to embrace your rut. I was watching, I'm sorry I don't remember her name right now, but the channel is The Big Sew Along, and she was talking about how in 2025 she was trying to shift things a bit, try new things. And most of the garments that she sewed at the beginning of the year where she was trying new things didn't work out as well as the ones at the end where she was sewing familiar things. There's a balance there. So just embrace your rut, but see what you can do to tweak it. For instance, I showed you the pants that my friend gave me a couple weeks ago. That is exactly my style. And I noticed on the Matchy Matchy website that they have done those pants in patchwork. My background is in quilting and I have lots of patches. So I might embrace that style of pant, but try to be a little bit more adventurous by perhaps doing it in patchwork. I think that tweaking and adding seams and details is one of the ways that we cannot get bored with what we have figured out works for us. I've been sewing for 50 years. It is hard to find something new because my shape and style is what it is, and it works for me. And it's only when I wander off into, say, frills and ruffles, which are not something I'm comfortable in, that I start making a lot of mistakes. Whereas I could do, tip number 8, shift slowly. If I wanted to capture some of frills and ruffles, I might add a tiny detail to a blouse. I really love boho style, but it is not me. That is way too much fabric on my body, and I'm very uncomfortable when I try it. But I have tried little things, like I have a tulle underskirt that goes under a linen dress that is in the style that I really like. It's about finding your balance points and then embracing them and seeing what you can do with that. Your rut is not a bad thing. It is the thing that you were looking for when you were searching for your style. Rut and style are basically the same thing. You just need to tweak it. Last week I was wearing a Marcy Tilton skirt and I realized it was 14 years old. 14 and faded, is probably time to move it along. So I made myself another one because this is my style. I'm going to embrace it. I did tweak it with the learning that I've had from those 14 years of wearing it. I did not put the giant pocket on it. I eliminated the pleats at the bottom, I shortened it to a more reasonable length, but I kept the zipper that I really liked. I was embracing my style, I was adapting it to my learning, and I have created something that I know I will wear. I have worn a lot of knit tops for years, black t-shirts, and they are very useful. However, I would like to transition to wearing more woven tops, and that is a journey. You want to do it slowly. For instance, this very wrinkly blouse is where I started. I wanted to see if I would wear a button-up collared blouse if it was out of a soft and drapey fabric. The answer is no. I still prefer an open neckline. So I went to this one next, which is that exact same pattern, minus the collar and cut out on fold. This is cut out on the cross grain. This is the exact same top, cut out on the bias. And you can see how it has more shape and drape. Here I'm getting to an answer that I will probably start to embrace. After that, I made a blue linen blouse that had an elastic wrist and an elastic around the waist. The linen was too heavy and it felt very thick. It has now become remnants. I took that learning and I made this one, which is cotton, and I only put the elastic at the side. I also made the neck slightly lower. So this one is too low for me compared to this one that I quite like, and somewhere in the middle might be just perfect. As I'm going along, I'm testing each decision till I can come to an answer that then becomes part of my rut and I can embrace it. I am now looking at what fabric is like this that I can make some black t-shirts with that are woven. Cut on the bias with this straight, add different details. So the last two, let me throw these on the ground first. Know your numbers. Take the time to figure out what your measurements are. What is your front and back shoulder width? What is your center front length? How low is your armhole? What is the shape of your waist? What is your hip depth? When you know all these things, the length of your sleeve, you are not going to sew a pattern and say it was too big in the shoulder or too long in the sleeve. That only happens because a person didn't know their numbers and they didn't adjust the pattern to fit their body. I used to just cut it right out of the package and expect it to fit me. And the older I got, the less it fit me, and the more I needed to know how to make it fit me. Most of my failures, most of my learning experiences are fabric related and not because the garment didn't fit me. So now when I want to change something, for instance, with this cut on the bias, I think that I would like a little more ease in it. I don't need to redraft the pattern. I simply take my existing pattern and I add the amount that I want. I'll cut a line from the underarm to the hem. I'll stick a strip of paper in there that is the amount that I want to add. I'll do that to the front and the back and the sleeves. And that's it. It will fit me. This shoulder width is not changing. The center back, center front lengths, they're not changing. My underarm depth, not changing. Ease, bust, any measurements where you may gain or lose weight, those can change. But it's very, very easy to adjust it once you know your numbers, recognize your shapes, and can basically use patterns over and over and as templates. Which leads me to the last one. Embrace your T&Ts. Having T&T patterns will save you a ton of money. Not only will they be fitted to you so that you're not making mistakes and wasting garments and fabric and money and time and energy, but you can adapt them for situations. These are my t-shirt T&Ts. What is in here is a variety of patterns that are based on different amounts of ease and different necklines and sleeves. I don't need a lot of patterns. The difference between this and a dress is length. The difference between this and a blouse is cutting it down the front and putting buttons on. If I want to add a collar, I just add it. There's no need to buy a pattern because it has a particular collar. If you've got that collar on another pattern, just move the information over. For instance, I want to remake this sleeve and add a whole bunch of little tucks around it. So I have added another 3 inches to the width of this sleeve, and I'll make a bunch of tucks and then sew it to the cuff. So those are my 10 tips. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope that was helpful. Please let me know. I would love to have a creative conversation. Take care. See you next week.